Ukrainians are intensifying their offensive operations along the Russian border near Tyotkino. As Ukrainian forces pushed deeper into Kursk, powerful HIMARS and strikes of the Ukrainian Air Force played a critical role in turning the tide and setting the stage for further Ukrainian assaults, coming increasingly close to capturing another tactically valuable settlement, says Euromaidan Press media outlet. The Ukrainian forces continued with their border incursion toward Tyotkino. Strategically, this operation aims to divert the Russian attention away from their summer campaign in the Donbas and keep them tied to Kursk Oblast. Tactically, this is meant to stretch the Russian defenses further to expose their vulnerabilities for additional Ukrainian counterattacks in Kursk. The Ukrainian attack on Novy Put, where they exploited a gap in the Dragon's Teeth fortifications, divided Russian attention. This allowed Ukrainians to increase the pressure elsewhere and continue pressuring the tactically significant settlement of Tyotkino, which would significantly improve Ukrainians' positioning, Euromaidan Press reports. By controlling Tyotkino, the Ukrainian forces could shorten their border defenses by over 15 kilometers. Securing the settlement would also allow the Ukrainian forces to use the residential houses to deploy and conceal lots of soldiers and heavy equipment in the area, making it difficult for the Russians to identify or target them. Additionally, Tyotkino is right next to the Ukrainian border and very distant from the main Russian logistics hub of Grushkovo, exposing the deployment of Russian reinforcements along open roads, undermining the Russians' offensive and defensive capabilities. To take the settlement, the Ukrainians intensified their HIMARS strikes to deny Russians the artillery support needed to overwhelm Ukrainian ground assaults, Euromaidan Press says. Recall recently, Ukrainians detected a North Korean Bucha multiple launch rocket artillery system and relayed the location to a nearby HIMARS battery. The North Korean system was subsequently destroyed with pinpoint accuracy as the HIMARS projectile ignited the ammo and destroyed the system. On top of that, the Ukrainian Air Force conducted precision strikes to eliminate Russian forces' concentrations and fortifications in Tyotkino and clear the way for frontline assaults. The Ukrainian aircraft managed to conduct 3 successful strikes on Russian positions at Tyotkino train station, eliminating Russian forces with utmost precision and exposing a weak point for direct Ukrainian attack towards it. The activity of Ukrainian MiG-29s in this area implies that the Ukrainians successfully suppressed Russian air defense systems during the early stages of their incursion, meaning that many more airstrikes could be conducted in the future. Euromaidan Press reports. With the success of HIMARS batteries and the Air Force doing massive damage to Russian combat capabilities, ground assault units were poised to make another breakthrough. Overall, the Ukrainians are continuing with their border pressuring campaign, increasing the intensity of their assaults and advancing against poorly prepared Russian border units in Tyotkino. With intense fire from Ukrainian HIMARS units and the Air Force silencing Russian guns, Ukrainian infantry and mechanized units have been able to continue to press forward the advance, creating another problem for Russian commanders in Kursk to deal with. At the storage base of the Omsk Armored Vehicle Institute in Russia, satellite footage has recorded the complete depletion of armored vehicles. This was reported by 24 Canal, citing OSINT enthusiast Hizo J on the social network X. The amount of equipment placed there is much less compared to previous years. Satellite footage shows that the facility housed a relatively small amount of equipment, As recently as 2021, the base housed 120 tanks, 89 armored personnel carriers, 41 infantry fighting vehicles and 54 MT-12 Rapira guns, but this equipment was removed from storage in 2025. At the same time, the armored vehicles and guns were stored under protective covers, which means they were in relatively good condition. The Omsk Automobile and Armored Institute is the only higher educational institution in Russia that trains engineers specializing in the repair, maintenance and modernization of automobiles and armored vehicles. Thus, the fact that equipment is being removed from warehouses at educational institutions highlights the existence of problems with the depletion of equipment stocks. Recall, Omsk Transmash machinery plant caught fire in the city of Omsk in Russia last year. Russia uses Omsk Transmash to produce military equipment including tanks and Salt-Sepek multiple rocket launchers capable of using thermobaric warheads. The EU, the US, Ukraine, Canada and other countries have imposed sanctions on the plant. Omsk is located in central Siberia, north of the Kazakh border. The city of more than 1 million people is some 3,000 kilometers east of Ukraine. By the way, in the settlement of Zuzemka in the Bryansk region, on May the 4th, the Strela plant, which produced electronics for the Russian defense industry, was attacked. Russia has depleted much of its Soviet-era military-industrial stockpile, with remaining equipment in poor condition, the independent media outlet The Insider reported recently. The Russian military has lost more than half of its available equipment, and unless an unexpected shift occurs, hostilities could gradually fade by late 2025 or early 2026 due to a shortage of tanks, armored vehicles and artillery, the publication claims. The Insider reported that both Russian and Ukrainian forces are primarily losing Soviet-era equipment, with Russian losses now accounting for about 50% of its total stock. Much of the remaining equipment in storage is in poor technical condition, making it unlikely to be repaired and deployed to the front lines. Moscow is also reportedly facing production limitations. The only infantry fighting vehicle in large-scale production remains the BMP-3, with 463 units produced in 2023. Modern BTR-82 armored personnel carrier production is estimated at 300 to 400 units annually. As a result, Russian defense lines collapse along the front.